he's calling Tsarukyan dumb when Ilia just returned to Miami. This dude just returned to the scene of the crime. He's cruising back to Miami, blasting that Will Smith. Party in the city when the heat is on, all night on the beach, trying to find my son a new mom. Ilia Topuria did an interview with Ariel Helwani, and they were talking about future opponents, possible future opponents. They were talking about Dustin Gaethje, Islam Makhachev, Conor McGregor. And for all of these dudes, Islam is still saying, I'm the best. It's a foregone conclusion. I'll beat all these dudes. I'm a different level. But he was still finding respectable enough things to say about them. This guy's good at this. This guy's talented at that, whatever. But nothing good to say about Tsarukyan. Nothing. He genuinely doesn't like that dude. Doesn't want to fight him. I'll get to it. He finally switched it up, and he's like, I'll fight him if the UFC wants me to. He finally switched it up. Don't worry. Stay tuned. But he doesn't like the guy. And I used to think it was something like, maybe it's like he doesn't want to fight the low-budget version of, I've been saying this for the long time. Islam Makhachev is kind of like the low-budget version, the Kirkland brand of Khabib Nurmagomedov. That's all we're going to get for now. And I think in a way, maybe a lot of people were thinking that Arman Tsarukyan was kind of the low-budget version of Islam Makhachev, where Ilia's kind of like, man, they kind of, not exactly the same. You're not going to confuse them in a lineup or anything, but like these guys are kind of similar. They kind of look the same. They kind of talk the same, kind of act the same. They fight the same. Like, why am I going to fight both of these dudes when only one of them is going to give me that prestige and the legacy, Why am I going to put myself through that? So I think he was trying to find different ways and reasons to avoid Tsarukyan, but I don't think that makes sense anymore. Because, and this ain't taking anything away from Makhachev, because he wants to live his own type of life. He wants to have his privacy. He wants to live out in the mountains. He wants to cut the Wi-Fi, and that's cool. You got to respect that. But Arman Tsarukyan has been out making the rounds. He's been collabing. He's been competing. And I think he's very much at the forefront of like all the MMA's community's minds right now. Like Makhachev is like, oh, snap, I forgot about that dude. First it's Ramadan, and then my hand is broken, or my hand fell asleep or something, or he was asleep. He fell off the bed and broke his hand. Him and Khabib were in the bunk beds, and he fell off the bed in his sleep and broke his hand. I don't know what the thing was. I'm not sure. But one of these guys you don't see anymore. And it's kind of like a distant memory. And the other one, you can't not see him. He's everywhere, right? And I was thinking about this earlier. I think it would be hilarious. It would be the move right now if the UFC on the new video game cover, because look, Arman Tsarukyan has become the face of the UFC lately. And he's become the face of the UFC by doing non-UFC things. That is crazy. I don't think I've ever seen that before. We've definitely had some faces of the UFC. And yes, did they also do some things outside of the UFC that were noteworthy? Okay, yeah, we talked about it. There was some drama. But they made their name. The only reason anybody talked about them outside of the cage is because of what they did in the cage. Arman Tsarukyan might be the first dude we've ever seen that made himself the face of the UFC by doing non-UFC things. I think the best move for them right now, it would be hilarious if they put Arman Tsarukyan on the video game cover. That would be hilarious. If they put Arman Tsarukyan on the new video game cover and he's wearing a RAF singlet, everybody would love the UFC for like 2 weeks. If they put Arman Tsarukyan on the new video game cover, he's wearing a RAF singlet and he's chilling with Neon, that would be hilarious. If they have any kind of intelligence, you're going to be throwing out all these AI slop and all the weird stuff that you're doing and collabing with Naok and all this weird stuff you're doing all the time, but you can't do something funny like this. You can be a little self-aware. People would absolutely love that. But anyway, that's not the case anymore. Ilia has to be able to acknowledge, this is the guy. Strap or no strap, he became this guy, and I've said this in a prior video, he became this guy without even needing to win a bout. How is he bigger? How is Tsarukyan bigger than all the dudes that actually have a bout right now? Well, he did like the whole Vince McMahon thing. Arman Tsarukyan is a genius. Arman Tsarukyan found a way to make himself the biggest superstar without even holding the thing that usually you need to have in order to manipulate people and convince them that the dude is a superstar. I mean, why do titles exist? It's so that people could know, oh, he's the guy. It's for that and money. That's how it is. It's some manipulation, trickery, so the fans could go, oh, everybody, this is the guy. Look at the flashy thing on him. Arman Tsarukyan found a way to hack the system so that he could be the biggest face in the UFC without even having a strap. He's the guy.
If you like these videos that I make every single Monday through Friday, then please consider liking, hyping, commenting, sharing, subscribing, all that kind of stuff that YouTube makes people do in order for a channel to be successful. I would definitely appreciate it. And also, if you are a doctor, a lawyer, you just had a rich relative pass away, and you're trying to find out what to do with your funds, I have a Patreon in the link down below. In the link? I have a Patreon in the link down below where you could help make these videos keep coming because I make nothing from these videos, and it's getting difficult. My lady wants me to quit YouTube, so...
But Ilia still doesn't like him. And I think, and you might think it's silly, but what else is there? Ilia has this strange obsession with being like the most Georgian dude ever. I don't know why, but it's a thing. Georgian and Spanish. And we got to acknowledge that. It's like, dude, I get that you have Georgian blood and your parents are Georgian, even though you were born on German soil. So, okay, you're Georgian German, GG, okay? But you're not Spanish, bro. You can't go get a P.O. box somewhere and just be like, this is my homeland. Like, that's not how that works. If you want to show up to Spain and you want to be like all these dudes from the UFC talking about Azerbaijan, like if you just joined a cult and you're just trying to do everything that you can to promote tourism, like if you're a hostage or something like that, and your life depends on how many people you could bring, like Azerbaijan is some kind of like MLM. Somehow Azerbaijan is like a pyramid scheme as a land. I don't even know how that works. If that's how you want to treat Spain, cool, bro. But do the 57 and me. The Spain's not gonna show up. You're Georgian and you are German. Okay, cool. But Tsarukyan's that full-blown Georgian. And I don't think that Ilia could sleep at night like that. I think Ilia, he goes to bed, he pulls the wig off, you know? For all we know, Ilia got that blonde hair, blue eye going on. Yeah, he's German, yeah. Hey, I just finally watched that movie, the Nuremberg Trials with Russell Crowe, so I think I would know. I think I could spot a German. For all we know, that dude goes home, pulls off the wig, blonde hair, blue eye. Or you know what? Everybody's talking about, and maybe it's some sleight of hand. All that I could see everybody talking about right now is that new Richard Mille sponsorship. That's the only thing flooding the newsfeed right now. The Richard Mille sponsorship with Ilia Topuria. You know what no one else is talking about? The Just for Men sponsorship. Are you kidding me? That jet black on the top and bottom, the jet black on his dome and on his face. Dude's hair is blacker than my beanie. You're going to tell me that that's natural? I think the Richard Mille and the Just for Men was a twofer. I think he's dyeing the hair, and I think he's got them contacts on, making his eyes brown. Yeah, he's German, yeah. I'm telling you, Nuremberg Trials. I could spot him a mile away. I think he's a fan of Cheech and Chong, and that's what tipped him off. That's what gave him the idea, the inspiration. Because don't it make my brown eyes blue? Oh, wait, I said the other way around. Don't it make my blue eyes brown? Wait, I said it wrong. Cheech and Chong wait a minute. Cheech and Chong said, yeah, because they have brown eyes. Cheech and Chong did that song, Mexican-American, blah, 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 because don't it make my brown eyes blue? But they stole it from that lady that's saying, because don't it make my blue eyes? No. She's the one, wait a minute. So he twisted it. Hold up, you're seeing this in real time right now, okay? This ain't a live stream. So with Cheech and Chong and the other lady, it made her brown eyes blue. This dude flipped it on him. He made the blue eyes brown. That's genius, bro. That's genius. That's why you have me all twisted and tripped up, bro. So you got to really sit down and think about it. And how many people are going to do that? I'm only doing that because I'm sitting here refreshing the newsfeed saying, what the heck can I talk about today? And I'm reaching here, bro. And that's the only time you're going to be able to come up with something like that. Are any of you at home right now twiddling your thumbs, trying to figure out what color Ilia Topuria's eyes are? No, but I feel better about it than when I was focusing on Israel Adesanya's areolas. But speaking about that, it kind of reminds me of the thing about Israel Adesanya just wanting to be any ethnicity that served his purpose that weekend. Don't it make my blue eyes brown? Mexican American. I think for Ilia Topuria, it would be like German, Spanish, Georgians. German Spanish Georgians have to dye their hair black and make their eyes brown and act like they're more ethnically ambiguous than Israel Adesanya. German Spanish Georgians. It's crazy. I think what's going on right now, it's like a battle of the homeland, a battle of the ethnicity. Because it's like Tsarukyan and Topuria over the Georgianic ancestry. It's kind of like, it reminds me of Adesanya and Dricus du Plessis all over again when they were fighting for who in the middleweight division was the king of the black man. And I feel like we're getting to live that all over again. That was kind of an exciting time, man. The middleweight division has been stale. It's like, how can you top that? How can you top that? And I think that's what they're trying to do again. And you know what? It doesn't carry the same weight behind it. I feel like there's certain races when you put them, well, there's only one race. There's certain ethnicities when you put them up against each other, there's kind of more of a punch to it, you know, especially when color is very much contrasting, you know what I'm saying? But I kind of feel like that's a similar thing to what's going on right here. And some people are saying, I'm not saying this, I'm not leaning one way or the other. I'm just saying that I've seen the comments that some people, because we're talking about the White House event right here, with Ilia being involved, and I know that he's not fighting Arman after all at the White House. Some people are hoping that Gaethje gets hurt and he ends up fighting him at the White House. But some people are saying that maybe this whole thing pitting Arman against Ilia and the Georgian roots and stuff like that, and the war of the homeland is trying to distract people away from the Iran war. And I'm not necessarily trying to push one way or the other. I've heard several. It was Luke Thomas. It was only Luke Thomas. He's the only one that I've heard talking about that. I'm gonna be honest with you. I was gonna leave his name out of the situation, but he doesn't seem to be anybody that would be ashamed of that kind of a talking point. So I don't think I'm necessarily saying a bad thing. But it's kind of silly what Ilia Topuria does. It's like the example that I gave with Azerbaijan. It's like, hey, bro, when you come and you do a fight camp and you're fighting like on American soil, like when you stay in the hotel, are you American now? As soon as you check in and they give you the card and you swipe on the door, are you American now? How does it work, dude? The Spanish thing, I've just never been able to wrap my beanie around. It's just getting a little bit greedy, you know? But from what he said, he's not going to come out and say, I don't like him because he was born in Georgia. That would be like the dumbest thing that he could say, right? He would get torched for that. But he did call Arman dumb. When Ariel was trying to talk about Arman, he's like, yeah, he looks dumb. By the way, he says dumb. He pronounces the B at the end, which I thought was ironic when he's calling someone else dumb. He kept saying that Arman's dumb, that he's a dumb guy. And, you know, I'm not going to talk about it a lot right now because I talked about it in the last video that I uploaded yesterday, because I'm sure all of you know by now I upload new videos every single Monday through Friday. So I'm sure you're already well aware of that, and I'm not going to go on an exhaustive tangent about stuff I already talked about yesterday. But Ilia is calling somebody else dumb. And after the whole debacle that he just went through, he took a year-long Ramadan. After the whole thing that he just went through with his divorce, which perfectly coincidentally lined up with him not having to fight Arman Tsarukyan. And now it's all settled just in time after the Pimblett and Gaethje fight. After somebody else went ahead and took that fight for the interim. He's calling Tsarukyan dumb when Ilia just returned to Miami. This dude just went back to ground zero. This dude just returned to the scene of the crime. Everything that just happened, all the separation and the sadness, and yes, he did express that in a very interesting way. I know, it's weird. That's neither here either. That's not what this video is about. He returned, a dog returning to its vomit. After all the issues that he had in Miami, he's going back. He's cruising back to Miami, blasting that Will Smith like if nothing ever happened. Party in the city when the heat is on all night on the beach, trying to find my son a new mom. He's doing it again. It's the circle of life, the circle of wife. He's looking for another one. Another one. Shameless. Got that short-term memory. He's calling Arman dumb as he returns back to Miami. And he's calling Arman spoiled. Spoiled. He told Ariel Helwani that the UFC was going to let him keep the lightweight bout if and when he goes up to fight Makhachev. UFC said they don't do that anymore. Nope. Off the table. Doesn't happen anymore. That is not the modern era. That's an old thing. Never again. I didn't like how people exploited and abused it and took advantage of it. It's terrible. It holds up divisions. We are not doing it again. And Ilia says, oh yeah, I talked to the UFC. I told them my intentions. Yes, they're okay with it. And Arman spoiled? Look at how the UFC treats Arman. Look at the hard stance they take on everything. The president blatantly, outwardly always telling people, I don't even care about you. You guys are idiots. Don't watch. What do you know? Who cares? You know what? I've never really cared for Darren Till. I like what he was saying the other day. He's like, hey Dana, we care. What do you mean? What do you mean? Every press conference, people are always asking you, you say, who cares? Everybody here, bro. I'm tempted to get press credentials. Bro, I'm tempted and I'm prepared to only ever get to a 10-1. Because when he says that, I'll be like, hey, stupid. We care. Everybody here, everybody in the comment sections, everybody in the chat, everybody that has Wi-Fi, everybody sitting here that's too afraid of you, everybody that pays for a ticket, everybody that made you rich, everybody cares, Dana. And I know you can hear me. So don't go, huh? What do you say? Huh? I know you can hear me, bro. I just want to go to one. I just want to go to one, dude. So Ilia is the one that's spoiled. And he switched it up too. He's just flip-flopping all over the place, man. He used to be like, I won't fight him. He said, I will give up the bout. I will get out of the division. I will say, here you go. I'll kick that bout like Khabib kicked Tony's fake bout. I don't even want it, dude. If I have to fight Arman, I'm out. I'm dipping. Peace. I'll go back to my homeland of España. I'll go back to my homeland of España. Dude, I said it before. He reminds me of a live-action version of Puss in Boots. And I know that's not good for my argument because Puss in Boots is Spanish. But it's just cosplay. That's what he puts on. It's just like Mackenzie Dern. That's what he's doing. And he didn't want to fight him before. And he was not ashamed to say that. But bro, he switched it up. He might say he doesn't like him and he doesn't respect him, but he didn't even like 1% act like he wouldn't fight him this time. And it has to have something to do. It has to have something to do with his management. Like, bro, you are a fighter. And look at the aspirations that you have. And now you're getting this favor with the UFC that you could even live a division and they're still going to let you hold the strap and come back. You're doing unprecedented things. You can't look like you're scared. You got to stop saying that. And then he gets the Richard Mille contract. Then he gets the Just for Men. He can't be looking like a coward, so he had to switch it up. And now he's like, I don't care. He said, I don't care if Gaethje gets hurt. I don't care if they throw in Arman. I don't care if they throw in Ariel Helwani. And Ariel's like, oh, snap. He hit his belt. You know how he has that black belt on the table? A lot of people didn't notice. As soon as Ilia said that, he was trying to be all slick with it. Ariel took it down. He's like, nah, I ain't even a fighter, bro. He's talking about Arman being dumb. He's talking about him being spoiled. How does Arman... I feel like all the times we see Arman online, we're seeing his sense of humor. We're seeing his generosity. We're seeing him donate to kids and to people in need. We're seeing him hang out with Clavicular and be nicer to his bodyguards than Clavicular than it ever would have occurred to him. Making sure people are fed, making sure that they're acknowledged. Just being a nice guy. It's not making him look dumb. It's not making him look immature. And I think he's bitter because what happened the one time Ilia tried to collab with someone, the first time he tries to do something with Nauk, what happens, bro? His whole world blows up. Ilia did what he did with Nauk, and look what happened. I don't know if those dudes are prophets or I don't know. We're living in a stimulation and they spoke it into the HTML. I don't know. But he did a collab and look what happened. He and his whole situation became a laughingstock. And Arman, he's becoming a hero. He's going to be the face of the new UFC video game because of what he does when he's out there collabing. Ilia could learn from him. And then Ilia was saying, I don't like when guys go around and show money and act rich. I don't like that. That's what Arman does. Ilia's sitting there wearing a $500,000 watch. What a hypocrite. He said, I don't like when dudes are just trying to show their wealth. And he's sitting there wearing a $500,000 watch. And then he said this. You could go watch the video. He said, you're not even rich. The only... Bro, I'm telling you, he said this and I couldn't even get through it. He said, you're not even rich. The only thing that you have is money. Now, if I'm trying to give Arman the benefit of the doubt, I would say, like, you know, if I was Ilia, I think I said Arman. If I was trying to give Ilia the benefit of the doubt, if I was an Ilia fanboy, I would say, like, oh, because he's talking about how there's other things that make you rich in life, like your family and you know, happiness. But based on everything that he said around and after that, that's not what he was saying at all. Especially not the way that Ilia operates. And he was talking about how he spends his father's money, that everything that Arman spends is his father's money, which is a terrible talking point because all that does is re-emphasize what everybody's been talking about more and more lately, that Arman Tsarukyan is the Georgian. That's right, Ilia. I said it. I unnecessarily added Georgian in there. I didn't even have to because it was still work, but I just wanted to put it in there. He's the Georgian Batman. He doesn't even have to do what he's doing. He doesn't even have to fight. He doesn't even have to compete. He's already filthy rich. He could live the life that he wants to. He could live the life that you wish that you could live, Ilia, without having a crooked nose, without being sore, without having to cut weight, without having to be unemotionally unavailable and have your wife leave you. Any of these things, any of these negatives, Tsarukyan doesn't even have to do that. And he could live the most comfortable life ever. You have to do those things. So what does that say about Arman? That he's still willing to put himself through the discipline and the sacrifice and the pain. You're only complimenting him, talking about how it's dad's money, bro. It only accentuates how much of a warrior he is. And then at the end of the interview, toward the end of the interview, there was a little bit of a Floridian slip. Ilia Topuria called himself the GOAT. I've never even heard, everybody throws around the word narcissist. I remember I used to hear the narcissist, Lex Luger, and I thought it was a good thing, you know? But you know the way that it's thrown around now and what people mean when they say that. Even Jon Jones. Now, I know there's different moments when he was getting like heated with Khabib and you know, DC, and he's like, you guys think Khabib's the GOAT, and then he feels that he has to defend his GOATness. But I don't think, and maybe I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm comment farming, correct me if I'm wrong, I can't recall a time that anytime Jon Jones has said, I am the GOAT. I feel like I've seen him in different instances say like, hey, that's up to the fans, or you guys decide, or I don't know. Same thing with like Mighty Mouse, different people who people would say is the GOAT. I've always only ever seen them say, man, you know, that's too hard to decide. You guys decide. I don't know. Ilia said he's the GOAT. And it was weird. And then Ariel kind of tried to call him on it. And then right away, Ilia's like, no, I'm just kidding. Because he knows how that looks. But you know what? I think I kind of have to give him the benefit of the doubt, you know? I think I kind of have to, because even as much as I'd like to clown on him for saying that he's the GOAT, I think it might have been something even more pathetic. And I was thinking, what could that be? And I was thinking, Georgian. Dude subconsciously let it slip that it's his aspiration to be the most Georgian of all time. Everything comes back to that. I don't know if this is something in his... I don't know if it's something in somebody's will. I don't know if there's something legally binding that... I don't know what plus it would be for this dude to have Georgian blood. I don't know why it's that important to anybody. I mean, you got guys like Adesanya just hedging your bets all over the place, man. Just trying to be as many things as you could be. But I don't get what's behind that. Is it for a broader fan base? I don't know. But I thought that's kind of funny. The most Georgian of all time. And I think in the eyes of Ilia, that might even be more important than being the greatest of all time, being the GOAT, the way that people traditionally use that term. But you know what I thought was funny? There was a point in the interview where Ilia was talking to Ariel, and they were talking about Paddy Pimblett's skills or lack thereof. And Ilia said something like, I'm never going to fight Paddy. It's too far. Like, he showed that he doesn't have what you need. He doesn't have the skills. He doesn't have the attributes. He doesn't have the capabilities. And he told Ariel, because Ariel asked him, like, what would he have to do? What do you think he has to work on? And Ilia said he would literally have to die and be born again. And I thought that was very interesting. Paddy would literally have to die and be born again. And I was starting to think, like, this is kind of like a Christ talking with, like, Nicodemus type of situation. You know, and Nicodemus is like, wait a minute, how am I gonna come back out my mother's womb again? And Christ is like, hey, you know, that's not what they're talking about. It's like metaphorical. Ilia is like, in a metaphorical fashion, he would have to, and like, that's never gonna happen, obviously. But Ilia, in order to be the most Georgian of all time, you literally would have to come back out your mother's womb on the Georgian soil. So it's just, there's always going to be this weird repression, this weird ambiguity between Ilia Topuria and Arman Tsarukyan that's just not going to be resolved unless Ilia Topuria is willing, unless he is ready and willing to re-enter his mother's womb.